All right, this is a killer black beans and rice dish, and I got this recipe from my mother. She was a flight attendant back in the 80s, early 90s, and in her travels to South America, she fell in love with this dish, and growing up, she would kind of, add her own twist to it. Full disclaimer, I'm not South American. I'm completely North American, but I'm gonna have a go at this anyway. Let me know what you think. I think it's a really, really stellar dish, and growing up, this was always one of the favorites in my household. So, as the name implies, we have black beans and rice, but there's also a Pico de Gallo sauce. It's not a sauce, sorry. It's mostly just chopped vegetables in a almost like a vinaigrette. It's just an oil and vinegar type of deal. So I'm going to start with the black beans. So in front of me here, I've got a Dutch oven with just a little bit of olive oil. And as you can probably work out from the vegetables here, I'm just going to go ahead and saute these up. So this is red onion. This is just a couple cloves of garlic. And I happen to have Goya black beans. I've tried other brands and some of them are great. Some of them not so great, but Goya seems to be the most consistent. But use your favorite black beans. The one thing I will point out, and the lighting isn't going to really be great with the dark color inside the can, but you're going to want to make sure that it's not too watery. So you can kind of get a sense for when I do this. If there's an inch of fluid at the top, you're going to want to drain some of that off. But for these, it looks like it's going to be okay. I might drain off a little bit on two of the cans, but you just don't want it to just be a soup of beans when you eventually do put it in. But anyway, so yeah, just got some extra virgin olive oil here in the bottom, and onions are gonna go in first. We're gonna get those nice and caramelized. You guys know how to saute onions and garlic by now. So once that is sauteed, and I'm gonna need two hands to do that properly, I will come right back. Apparently my phone ran out of memory or storage space about 5 seconds into my last video clip. I apologize for that. I didn't catch it until after I had just done a bunch of stuff. What happened was I had just finished sauteing the veggies and added in that first can of beans. So, I mean, as far as the sauteing goes, just, get them aromatic. You're looking for translucent onions, blah, blah, blah. Pretty standard stuff. And then, basically you just want to get all the beans in there, bring it to a simmer. And then when it's simmering, we're going to go and chop our veggies for the pico. Something else I want to point out is I omitted the quantities of how much onion I used and so on. I know you can kind of see the amount, but it's obviously going to scale on how many cans of beans you're using and also your taste for things like garlic and onion. I personally like a lot of garlic, so that's just what I used. But as far as the onion, so I used 1.5 of these sweet onions or red onions. They're not sweet onions. I learned recently that that's a different thing. Anyway, you can kind of see the size of them here. So it was 1.5 of these size red onions that went into 4 of these big cans of beans. So that's about it. I'm going to add in the other 3 cans, get that to a simmer, and then we'll go over to the pico. For the Pico de Gallo, it's pretty easy to make, but it is time consuming. The main 3 ingredients are going to be the red onions, some tomatoes, and some cucumbers. So we're gonna basically just cut these up and do equal parts, pretty much just equal ratios. And then as I do that, I'm gonna just be putting them into this bowl here. And then we're gonna also add in a good amount of cilantro. And this is just gonna be at your discretion how much you use. I'll show you how much I use though. And then the rest of it is gonna be some white vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, and then some salt to taste. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. I've got 4 big cucumbers in here. Kind of see the scale. And then I want to say that's 6 Roma tomatoes. So I'll see you in a few minutes. By that I mean 30 or 40 minutes in my time. A couple details that I forgot in the last clip. Mostly the size. So you can kind of see here this is the size that you're aiming for, and this is going to be the same for the tomatoes, the onions, the cucumber, everything. You can change that if you want. The other 2 things, one is scooping out the seeds from the cucumber. I guess it's optional. I just use a spoon and just remove the seeds after I split the cucumber open. And then the other one is removing the skin. And if you want to be fancy, you can definitely remove the skin. Actually, that's how it was made in my family growing up, but I'm lazy and I don't mind the skin. So I just leave the skin on. Doesn't take away from it for me, but you do you. Anyway, that's what it should look like. The main thing, I guess, is this is kind of the size that you should be looking for. It's kind of like that. All right, so I've got this all diced up and put together here. Off camera, I already did add a little bit of salt, just not too much, salt to taste. And I did drizzle some olive oil already on the top. The idea is that you just kind of want to toss it with a little bit of olive oil just to coat everything. Then for your cilantro, I'm just going to be using pretty much all of this. It just happens to be exactly what I have. That's why I'm using that much. But if you don't like cilantro, don't use cilantro. Some people say that it tastes like soap or whatever. Anyway, once that's all together, you're going to want to definitely use a good amount of vinegar. I've already added a little bit in here. You don't want to cause a bath where it's just, a big stew of vinegar, but you want to let it kind of marinate. And what I like to do is let it rest for about an hour. Let that vinegar kind of work its way and penetrate the vegetables a little bit. Give it a nice little bit of tang. And then that's your pico done. And just like that, we're all ready to eat. So I made some rice off camera. I didn't cover that because it's just making rice. I should be able to figure that one out. But yeah, here we go. Just the rice, black beans, and pico. It's gonna be a really good meal.